Commander Palka from the LAPD for Les Moonves. Yeah, I'll hold.
Detective Palka, how are you?
Les, I just got a call from a Phyllis Golden Gottlieb. Les?
I'm here.
Les, she made some pretty disturbing accusations. Some things that happened back in the 80s that are just coming around now with what's been going on in Hollywood and how some women may have been treated.
Palka, that was 30 years ago. Besides, it was consensual.
I get it, Les. I really do. Listen, I probably shouldn't do this, but I'll send you over a statement and you can get your eyes on it. I'll see what I can do to kill it on my end.
You've always been loyal to me, Palka. I appreciate it.
The commander of the Hollywood precinct and the most powerful man in that town would meet together 2 weeks later at an Italian restaurant in West Hollywood. Years later, the phone call and that dinner would be the subject of an LA City Ethics Commission investigation. But for now, these two top bananas were unruffled. It was true. CBS CEO Les Moonves had a growing pile of skeletons. But he didn't have to worry about a police investigation when the LAPD was in his pocket. Favors and cover-ups? That's just how business was done. At the time, defenders of Les Moonves, whose nickname was Mr. Hollywood, populated boardrooms and casting couches across LA County. He was a one-man media mogul, responsible for catapulting CBS from a sleepy granny network into a primetime cash cow, churning out hits like Big Brother, Survivor, Criminal Minds, and The Big Bang Theory. But if you zoom out, you'd see that Moonves' high horse was perched upon shaky ground. Agitated by a series of disturbing sexual assault allegations that became impossible to brush aside. Would his gaggle of sycophants have enough sway to keep him in charge of pumping out daytime crime dramas and out from behind bars? Or would the skeletons in his closet drag him and his golden parachute to the bottom of the Hollywood reservoir? This is the Corporate Gossip Podcast, CBS and Messy Les Moonves.
Hey, this is producer Mike. If you want to binge all of season 4 right now and not have to wait for weekly drops, head over to our brand new Patreon, patreon.com/corporategossip. All audio and video are up there right now for the entire season. Plus, not only can you binge the entire season, there'll be discussions with Adam and Becca about each episode. So head over to patreon.com/corporategossip and sign up now. All right, let's get into the show.
Bead.
Welcome back to another episode of the Corporate Gossip Podcast. I'm host Becca Platsky, CPA Scorned. I'm here with my brother and co-host, Peter Weber. I'm just making fun of him because he's wearing the famous sweater of Peter Weber from the Traders.
Where he was banished.
When the jacket he was wearing when he was banished, the reference will be
Spoiler alert.
Months old by now. Hopefully you've caught up.
Yeah, which means I will have broken up with Ekin-Su by now.
Okay, so here I'm with my brother and co-host,
Pete Weber lookalike, Adam Platsky.
And we're here to talk about CBS. And it's appropriate that we used a pop culture reference to kick off our episode today, because I would say if you are looking for a corporate gossip episode to get somebody who is already really into pop culture into this podcast, this is the episode for them. This episode is chock full of celebrity cameos and insider Hollywood drama. And it's funny because I also think it captures why we do this podcast, which is why gossip is such a powerful tool to keep people accountable. In pop culture, we have people who are held accountable for any infraction just because of the name recognition. It's easy. It's fun to talk about Sandoval, for instance, for months. To hold Tom Sandoval extremely accountable for any action that was like a tiny sliver, a splinter as big of a deal of any number of the scandals that we talk about on this episode. And that's why I think our podcast is so important, if I do say so myself, because when you get the names of these CEOs who really skirt accountability, because you couldn't pick them out of a crowd, when you start inserting their names into daily conversations, which hopefully you can do after this podcast, it becomes so much easier to hold them accountable. And these are the people who should be receiving the level of attention from the general public that Sandoval did, for instance. And before we dive in, I just will remind our listeners that this is technically part 2 of a 2-part episode. We're going to meet back up with Sherry Redstone, who you met last episode, in the middle of this one, as she's fighting with Les Moonves for control of CBS. So you don't have to listen to the Paramount episode to figure out, but it gives you just better context for what's going on corporately as Les is exposed for being a sick freak. So let's start by introducing, here's my nickname for him, Messy Les Moonves. Are you ready for corporate gossip number 1?
Let's hit it, Todd.
Corporate gossip number 1 is, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. TV. So here we have Les Moonves on the left with his father, Herman, his mother, Jo, and his wife, Julie Chen, later known as Julie Chen Moonves, in 2009. So here's some background on Les. He was born in 1949 in Brooklyn, New York, to Herman and Josephine, and was raised in Valley Stream, New York. His mother was a nurse and his father was an Army veteran. And you guys know how much I love to go back and look into the childhoods of these men who end up being just scourges of society, and try to trace their actions now into their backgrounds. I couldn't find a ton on Les, I'll be honest.
And just for the record, producer Mike here, that doesn't get to be introduced in the intro. I just like to say for the record that as a person in the entertainment business, I would like to say that the opinions here expressed are not that of Mike Albanese, comedian Mike, and I was producer Mike Albanese, and I think Les Moonves is a genius, brilliant, and I'd love to and can't wait to work with him in the future. Thank you. Goodbye.
Mike doesn't want to be blacklisted, and you'll see why, because we're about to talk a ton of shit.
And I disagree with everything they say. Goodbye.
About somebody who was at one time the most powerful person in Hollywood. So that applies to Michael Albanese. So, like I said, there isn't a ton of information about Les's upbringing. I did find that he is actually the grandnephew, did you know this, of the first Prime Minister of Israel, David Ben-Gurion.
The namesake of the airport.
Yep. The only other thing I can find about his father is this article about his father being the oldest player in a Palisades, California poker tournament at 92 years old. Both Herman, Les's father, and his mother, Jo, have since passed in 2021 and 2016, respectively. I really hate it when I can't find stuff on the childhoods of these CEOs, especially when they're outed for really egregious behavior. But for Les, we don't really get to go on until his college years. Eventually, Moonves packs up, leaves Valley Stream, and enrolls in Bucknell, which is in central PA. And he eventually graduates with a degree in Spanish. After college, he moves to New York City, kind of follows the Vanderpump Rules career trajectory to pursue acting. For the next 6 years, he takes classes at Greenwich Village Neighborhood Playhouse. Have you ever heard of this, Mike?
Oh yeah, it's a big like theater. A lot of people go. Yeah, it's a big place. Not big in size, but big in like
notoriety.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, tons of famous actors took classes there: Diane Keaton, Mary Steenburgen, Jeff Goldblum, Sally Jesse Raphael, Christopher Maloney, and his dumper.
Sally Jesse Raphael.
Yeah.
Name a few.
You like that?
Beep, 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 beep.
That's Christopher Maloney's dump truck. Yeah, he's got a cake. Anyway, I told you there'd be celebrity cameos, and I couldn't resist that one. So here's Les's, as we talk about sexual harassment of Les Moonves, but I think Christopher Maloney would be happy that we gave his backside some props on this podcast. So anyway, here's how Les would describe his time in New York City. He says, so here you are in this third floor walk up, struggling and tending bar and going to acting school. It was one of the greatest periods of my life.
Wait, yeah, he was just like a Vanderpump Rules cast member.
Yeah.
Struggling and tending bar.
Yeah. There really is nothing like being young and broke in New York City or LA and following your dream. And in the 1970s, I bet you he has so many great stories. Here's one crazy story, but this one is from when he moved to Los Angeles, where he got his big break. By the way, the picture we're showing here is from a 1973 play called The Green Cockatoo. It looks like Les is, I don't know anything about this play, but he looks like he's maybe Beethoven. He's got a mole painted on. He reminds me of that movie Amadeus.
Yeah.
He looks exactly like the main character.
You know what though? Even this in the next photo, I don't really see the man we see today or from the photo earlier. Like his face has changed a lot.
Yeah, I would agree. So here's how he gets his big break. In 1981, he has this play called The Hasty Heart, which is, this play is about a Scottish soldier that falls in love with a hot nurse. And the play wasn't really going anywhere until the death of actress Natalie Wood, who mysteriously died while on a yacht trip with her husband, Roger Wagner, and her co-star at the time, Christopher Walken.
Oh, no.
That's a crazy story, by the way. I don't know if you know anything about it. I'm not going to tell you more here, but she died with suspicious circumstances. And actually, one of my favorite podcasts, Stuff You Should Know, did a great episode on that mysterious death. But anyway, she was supposed to star in her own play in the 3,000-seat Amundsen Theater. Amundsen Theater, and the theater reps put Les's play in the open slot.
So he benefits from the death of this woman?
He benefited from the death of Natalie Wood.
Just leave that there.
Yeah. I guess one play gave him enough cred in 1980s to become suddenly a lower level executive in what was then known as Columbia Pictures Television. This would later become CBS. It's not clear to me. Like, I don't understand that career path, but I don't know, it's the 80s. 3 years later, he gets a gig at Lorimar Productions and becomes its president when it's bought by Warner Brothers. Lorimar produced one of producer Mike's favorite shows, Living Single.
We are living single. You guys are going to sing it with me? In a 90s kind of world, I'm glad I got my friends. You guys didn't watch that? Oof.
It was, I guess, before our time.
Much before our time.
Pop culturally, sometimes it's referred to as Black Friends.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh. I also didn't watch Friends. Can we go to the next slide? Speaking of Friends, we have this picture of Jennifer Aniston, George
Pretty recognizable face.
I told you I didn't watch Friends. George Clooney, and who's on the left? Oh, that's Terry Hatcher.
Oh, wow. That's Terry Hatcher? That's Terry Hatcher like 4 faces ago.
Yeah, I did not recognize her.
They are real and they're spectacular. Nothing? She did a guest star on Seinfeld. No. And there was a whole thing where Jerry and Elaine thought she had fake breasts.
This is so embarrassing, you guys, but I have seen a lot of Seinfeld, but I really only watched trash.
Jerry gets Elaine to find out if they're real in the sauna of the gym, and she trips and falls and grabs them.
I can't believe that's Terry Hatcher.
Yeah, so that's Terry Hatcher, and they are hugging Les Moonves. I mean, to be embraced by George Clooney, Jennifer Aniston, and Terry Hatcher, he looks like the cat that ate the canary there. He looks pretty smug. He, at the time, was known as Mr. TV. He was also head of production of long-running primetime soap opera Dallas, and he made a name for himself developing Warner Brothers shows like Friends and ER.
You hit on this earlier, right? What the heck? How does Les Moonves rise as fast and as quickly as he does, right? Trying to do more research into how he goes from actor to exec, which is pretty seamless, almost instantly. Were you able to find anything on his career or anything about that trajectory? So he just acts as a qualified lower level exec when he joins Columbia Pictures? What kind of dirt does this guy have?
What episode? Oh, it was our last episode that we did with Paramount where Sumner Redstone at 28 is like partner of a law firm.
Right.
I don't know. Again, I don't know if it was just a different time and you could rise up much more quickly, or if these guys were lucky and, benefited from their circumstance and their privilege. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it is kind of confusing and unclear. By 1995, he moved over to CBS. He becomes president of their television department, and he's credited for a super successful turnaround of the network over the next 7 years.
Right. So back to what I was just saying, right? 1995, he's president of CBS. So a mere 10 years of professional experience, and we're going to give Les the job of president of CBS. CBS, that was a $5 billion company at the time, according to a Westinghouse merger article I read. Where in the world does CBS get off making this guy a kingmaker? Also, if you're Les Moonves, you're probably like, holy shit. Imagine if I didn't waste my time in Greenwich Village. I could have been president.
I mean, look at how smug he is.
Yeah.
This guy is like, I shit gold. And Jennifer Aniston and Terry Hatcher are hugging me. And I deserve it. Mm-hmm. I will say, for CBS, when he got there, it was known as the Granny Network. Its lineup had shows like Walker, Texas Ranger, and Murder, She Wrote. He really tried to reinvigorate the lineup and really hit it big in 2000. And Adam, you can thank him for this, you and Lauren, when the network debuted a pretty groundbreaking new show called Survivor. And later that year ordered the first season of CSI. Yeah, so just
Survivor's still on television, and we're entering season 46 right now.
Wow.
It's crazy.
It's got to be one of the longest running shows on television.
I mean, reality TV easily, right?
Oh, certainly, yeah. So even early in his career, he's already pretty polarizing. Some people see him as a programming genius. Others see the type of shows he's greenlighting, and they're noticing a familiar pattern. Here's an excerpt from an article from the TV section of the New York Times in 2006. It goes, all the top CBS dramas are alike. They showcase omniscient, workaholic male boss on the dark side of 50 who is surrounded by young, eager to please acolytes. They go on to call out, in particular, Criminal Minds and NCIS, among a few others. But ultimately, the formula, regardless of whether it's predictable, it works. And Moonves' CBS is at the top of the ratings for years. So his behavior is reinforced. He becomes this trope, an old Hollywood dick-swinging micromanager a la David Zaslav. And here he is in one of his favorite poses.
I didn't realize this picture would be replicated 4 or 5 times.
So corporate executives love this picture and this pose that we're seeing, which is leaning over a shiny conference table with your knuckles bearing the weight of your upper body. It reminds me of the scene in Elf with the executive, I forgot who plays the father in Elf, where he's like angry, or you know,
James Caan.
No, it's
James.
You know
Caan.
who does this exact thing is.
That was actually Peter Dinklage.
Peter Dinklage in
Yeah.
Elf.
Elf.
In that famous scene in Elf in the corporate boardroom, he puts his
"Call me Elf one more time."
Yes. And that is Les Moonves is doing that exact pose with zero irony.
Yeah. So if you took a photo like this in the 90s or 2000s, you did fraud or you essayed women. That's what you did. And that's a fact. Anyway, we should come up with a name for these types of exec vanity shoots.
The number of CEO vanity shoots that take place in a beige conference room with a shiny table and you can like see the reflection from the bottom. Yeah. There needs to be a certain type of photography.
And they probably buffed the table out before.
It's like share buyback noir. Mm-hmm. So here's one way that a former colleague described working for Les Moonves. Moonves gave executives he believed in big opportunities to advance their careers, but he would torture them at the same time. Executives had to be accustomed to incessant micromanaging along with second guessing, threats of being fired, and ultimatums about what the failure of a show or a business venture would mean for a person's career at the company. Quote, it also created a kind of Stockholm syndrome environment for senior executives. There's this other story that kind of struck out to me as I was researching, which is about casting for Homeland, which was on Showtime by the time it was under Les's control.
Yeah, what's the story?
So I didn't write it down.
They better not have been about Claire Danes.
No, it was like another actress in the show, and basically they were going to cut her part, and then Les saw another what's it called, like a reel that she had done where there was a sex scene, and Les came in and was like, you see what that girl did over there? You should have her do that, more of that in Homeland. I really like that. It was like that's how this guy comes in, micromanaging the shit about a story about a terrorism chronicle, and is like, we need more sex. I didn't watch Homeland, but
Larry Flint's Showtime. Do you know Larry Flint?
No.
Larry Flint Hustlers. He's another one. He'd be a good person. He'd be a good topic for this podcast.
He was shot in my hometown, coming out of the tiny little courthouse in Lawrenceville, Georgia. That's where I grew up.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah, that's our claim to fame, is that we got rid of that smut peddler, or tried to. Tried to, at least.
Wait, Wait, did he own Showtime?
No, he owned Hustler.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, you can go down the city to 12th Avenue, Larry Flint's Hustler, 53rd and 12th.
Anyway.
And many across this country, if we're talking about strip clubs as well. Larry
We
Flint's
weren't
Hustler.
talking about strip clubs. So anyway, I have this other story about 2003 when he dumped an already finished 4-part miniseries called The Reagans, which while it was in production was criticized by the right for being inaccurate and inflammatory. At the time, the LA Times wrote, "This isn't the movie I thought I was getting." The CBS chief was evidently upset that he wasn't seeing the love story between Ronald and Nancy that he ordered. Though Moonves is a staunch Democrat, he was also apparently concerned that the tone of the miniseries was unduly sensational. They didn't make this conclusion in the article, but I will. A CEO who is pulling in tens of millions of dollars, eventually up to $60 million by the middle 2010s, ain't gonna rag on Reagan. I think once $250 million is in the bank, is in your sights, you basically have to go take a religious pilgrimage to Thousand Oaks to take a blood oath at the Reagan Library. And before we move to the next piece of corporate gossip, I just want to add a little side story with another crazy cameo, and like I said, there will be many more. Here we are again with Les's favorite
I see a table
pose.
and I put my fists into it.
Les never seen a table he didn't want to lean on.
Maybe it's because he had a bad back. Did you research that? Maybe he's got a tough lower back. Maybe it's
Spinal
vertebra.
stenosis, maybe?
Yeah, give Les, my favorite executive of all time, a bit of a break.
This is Les Moonves left and Donald Trump right, fucking standing over ironically, a Monopoly board game after they had signed the rights to Miss USA to CBS. So in 2004, when this picture was 2 years after this picture was taken, Les was in a feud with Trump. It all started a few years prior when there were some broadcast disagreements over the Miss Universe. I said Miss USA, but I think it was Miss Universe pageant. And now Trump was hyping up The Apprentice, which was on NBC, and he started talking shit about Moonves. Again, this is from the LA Times, where a lot of the reporting from this episode comes from. Trump called Moonves the most highly overrated person in television.
If Les Moonves was... Nope, it's not there.
No, it was good. Keep going.
Here's the thing. If Les Moonves was a contestant
No,
on
you
this...
did it the first.
If Les Moonves was a contestant on the show, he would have been fired in the third episode. And unlike most people, I like Les Moonves. And I mispronounce it on purpose.
Mike Les Moonves.
And unlike most people, I like Les Moonves. That was okay. Not our best. If you want to be our Trump impersonator, if you want to be our official corporate gossip Trump impersonator and take Mike's job, right in. Are you ready for corporate gossip number 2?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Here we are coining my favorite nickname that I made up. Messy Les Moonves.
What about Mess Moonves?
That's even
Yeah, where?
Mess Moonves.
Yeah.
Damn it. All right. If you want to be our official nickname correspondent, write in. So during that whole Reagan miniseries debacle, one of the reasons people think he was just so haphazard in his direction and he was distracted was because he was in the middle of a divorce from his first wife, Nancy. You know, much like Les's childhood, there isn't much information out there about Nancy. It's like all I could find is those weird AI celeb bio websites. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah.
But I did find this. It's from the Daily Mail. So, like, who knows how much more reliable this is. But Les and Nancy met in 1977. Get this. When Nancy was 17 and Les was 28, they married the next year. 6 years later, she gives birth to their first daughter, Sarah. And 2 years after that, she gives birth to twin boys, Adam and Michael. We got to talk about their kids now. Sarah is the editor-in-chief of W Magazine, but her Getty image collection is peak Gallery Girls. Here's one of my favorite pictures. I think I put it in. You can go ahead, Mike. Here's a picture of Sarah with Les and Julie Chen. This is Lena Dunham. Like, she is Girls.
Yeah, she looks like Girls.
It feels like that's the, here she is
it's Rich Girls.
With Mary-Kate. It's Gallery Girls. Remember that
Gallery
Bravo show?
Girls,
Like,
yeah.
this is, if you can imagine Gallery Girls, that short-lived show on Bravo, I think from the early aughts, that is Sarah Moonves. And here's a picture with, I think she's really close with the Olsen twins, I guess, through like The Row and W Magazine. So if you go to the next, and then Jonah Hill, this is the 3 of them in 2018. There's pictures of her with Greta Lee. There's pictures of her with Jessica Simpson, which Jessica Simpson, did you see this picture of Jessica Simpson? I don't know if you guys have seen her recently, but she looks very different.
Yeah. The arc of Jessica Simpson. I did a lot of Sarah Moonves research the other night. I found a new form of privilege, and I want to play a game. You ready? It's called How Privileged Is She? Okay, so ready? 1, 2, 3.
How privileged is she?
Sarah Moonves is so privileged that she doesn't even need a LinkedIn. Could you imagine being so privileged that you don't even need a resume? Because that's Sarah Moonves. She just gets a job as the editor-in-chief of W Magazine after Condé Nast sells it off. Mind you, the investors who bought W were led by Carly Kloss. I don't know, maybe they're friends. Well, folks, it really is about who you know. But I guess we already knew that.
I don't remember which episode it was. It must have been a Coke episode where we looked up some of their kids and most of them don't have LinkedIn. That is one of those privileged things
it's crazy.
that we don't talk about.
Can you imagine being a millennial, not having LinkedIn, working in corporate America?
No.
Being in copy nonetheless? Like, that is a fucking rough business, as you and I know.
Knowing her connections, though, Sarah, I bet you did have a few Coke episodes. We're having fun. We're having a good time here, huh? The corporate gossip.
Oh, that's good. Careful, Mike. Les might be listening. Yeah. He would hate.
We'll take
like I said,
I think it should be good. No, I like it. Oh, that's such a good Rebecca. That was so good.
It's a hot riff.
Yeah, it's actually insane what a socialite she is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, where the hell was she for the casting of Roni? The redo Roni. She would have fit right in. She's friends with Diana Argon. She styled so many celebrities for W Magazine. Lana Del Rey, Nicole Kidman. She hosts these parties for W Magazine at Chateau Marmont for people who are nominated for a Golden Globe. This year, Margot Robbie was there, Emma Stone, William Dafoe, Niecy Nash, Quinta Bronston, Greta Gerwig, and Nick Kroll. And Sally Jessy Raphael. No, I'm just kidding. Here's a description of the party from W Magazine. Signature cocktail from
Do you want me to do this one too? Signature cocktail.
No. Signature cocktails from Casamigos Tequila flowed well into the morning, and DJ Ross won, as always, kept the hits coming. At the 11th hour, Leonardo DiCaprio made a surprise appearance along with Tobey Maguire and Lucas Haas, while DiCaprio's girlfriend, Vittoria Caretti, looking casual in jeans and sneakers, chatted with girlfriends. I heard that wardrobe was provided by Wyatt Ingraham, Coke's men's blouse line.
Yes, men's blouses.
But seriously, this is so Gallery Girls coded. But anyway, yeah, classic Nepo baby story. So let's go back to Les and Nancy's other kids. So there's a lot less out there about Sarah's twin brothers. Actually, a really sad story about one of the twin brothers that I'm not going to get into, but you can find online. But yeah, just they were struggling. Anyway, back to Nancy. They got divorced in 2004 after 26 years of marriage. 2 weeks after the divorce is finalized, he gets married to Julie Chen. We'll talk about more of her in depth later, but she is the host of Big Brother and she was on a bunch of CBS shows. So if you recognize that name, that's where you know it from. So I'll get back to that in a second. But I need you to see this mid-aughts Hampton dream life that Nancy is living in the years after the divorce. This was from an event called Nancy. This is the name of the event. Nancy Moonves and Jack Guy hosted Tanqueray No. 10 cocktail party.
Did ChatGPT exist back then?
Yeah.
Who the fuck is Jack Guy?
And what? They didn't name the party. They just make it a description of exactly what's happening.
I don't understand. I guess maybe do rich people name their parties? Is that a thing?
Yeah, this is Jack Guy.
Who is he?
I don't know, but that's who you would expect to be hosting a Tanqueray party.
Anyway, summer should be fun. Nancy is fun. Here she is with
Summer is fun. Suzanne Summers.
Suzanne Summers. That is what's her face's daughter, Rivers.
That's
Melissa Rivers. They're all holding martinis. Everybody has
gin martinis.
It's got to be a Tanqueray martini. So you know they're having so much fun. Go to the next page. I mean, come on. You know what? Everybody enjoying their martini, not a phone in sight, living in the moment.
Oh, it's that girl.
Who's that girl?
Leaf.
Oh yeah, that's she's an influencer. What the hell is her name?
No, she's an actress too.
Lee Bell?
Yes.
No.
Bell.
The guy on the top left looks like one
Lake
of the.
Bell.
Lake Bell.
That's Lake Bell. Yep, Lake Bell. And these are, if you go into look at these Getty images, I mean, you'll see like all the influencers of the time. Like I'm sure Tinsley Mortimer is around there somewhere with Lake Bell, Olivia Palermo. Okay, I found one single quote from Nancy about her divorce, and I searched the whole fucking internet. Here's a quote from a New York Daily News article that has since been deleted, but is captured in other articles that reference it. And that is a level of research that you can expect from this show. Here's a quote. I felt that everybody knew about what was going on between Moonves and Chen, and everybody did know, except me. I knew our marriage would end eventually, but the way it happened was not correct. It was not moral, she told the New York Daily News in 2004, saying that she had never met Chen and hoped to God she would never have to. She and her 3 children with Moonves boycotted CBS as a result. Neither I nor our children have watched it in years. I don't want to see her. It's not healthy for me or my kids. So why would they have to turn off CBS entirely to not see Moonves' new wife? Because his new wife was
Jeff Probst.
not Jeff Probst. Julie Chen. Here she is in season 1 of Big Brother, which just goes to show you how long Big Brother has been on the air, because this looks like, I don't even know, this looks like the backstage of 90s episodes of Jerry Springer. It's just, the quality is so bad. Julie and Les's relationship was pretty scandalous from the start. She was a newsreader for the early show, and she was tapped to lead Big Brother. Here's a quote from an interview she did at the time with Entertainment Weekly. I originally turned down the job. I was forced to take it, so I took it. I don't know what I was in for. She didn't elaborate, by the way, on why she was forced to take it. But I think that part of the story is weird. Again, knowing what we know now about Les.
You either take the job or you don't get to marry Les eventually.
Yeah, like what the hell? Here's the rest of the story. And I don't know if you remember, but this first season was totally panned. And she was worried she was going to get fired. So here she goes on to say that when she got a call from the then president of CBS and future husband, Les Moonves, roughly a month after season 1 wrapped, she assumed the axe was finally going to fall. I got a call from Les and he was like, I've got to go to this event tonight for Gorbachev and Clinton, and you work for the news division. Do you want to meet me at the event? He needed a +1. And I was like, oh my God, my boss's boss's boss is taking me to a public place to fire me. I really thought that, laughs Chen. I remember calling my best friend. I was like, is this how this works? So it's a softer blow. I can't make a scene in front of Gorbachev. I remember saying to him, are you here to fire me? And he was like, what? Executives don't take out their talent to fire them.
We take them out to fuck them.
What the hell? So obviously there are a lot of people who wonder like why this woman was kind of picked out of this relatively obscure job to host the show. And here's what Julie says. To this day, Chen believes that she was the network's 3rd choice to host Big Brother, but Moonves disagrees. Quote, I have read articles where Carson Daly said that they offered Big Brother to him, and it's so funny because if I bring it up, you could have been married to Carson Daly. Les says, it's not true. I was so confused by this quote. Was the deal that Les was like contractually obligated to marry whoever hosted Big Brother?
Carson, I don't like it when you paint your nails that color.
You paint them all or you paint none, Carson. Also, that also reads like, that's not true. I would never marry Carson Daly. It gives no context.
It's so weird. Like the way she talks about it is so strange. I had to take the job. Les was going to marry whoever it was.
Daily.
Anyway, you go to the next picture. You'll see Julie Chen and Les Moonves, and frequent watchers of this podcast will already know the background between the wooded background, the name tags, and the branded vest. You'll be able to tell that they are here at an Ellen Company Summit, aka Summer Camp for Billionaires in, where is it, Idaho?
Sun Valley. So if anyone in the Sun Valley area has a thrift store that they go to where they find these vests, I'd be willing to pay double what you pay for it. And let me know. I want one.
We need to take a corporate gossip trip to Sun Valley. And we need to infiltrate. We need to get a job at a corporate caterer.
Yeah. Do you think the Kimpton over there has a happy hour that we can infiltrate?
Okay, if anybody wants to sponsor our trip to Sun Valley, I'll open up a wish list item on our Buy Us a Coffee. So yeah, they're still together. Julie Chen Moonves and Les Moonves. We'll talk more about that later. You ready for corporate gossip number 3?
Yeah.
Corporate gossip number 3 is Sumner Redstone steps down. Les Moonves becomes chairman and CEO of CBS. Now, this whole part of the episode is fun because it's one Cheezy Blaster away from being a 30 Rock episode. So Sumner finally keels over just halfway, and Les Moonves takes the opportunity to say, "Excuse me?" He steps gingerly over Sumner's sagging body and takes his place as the chairman of the board in 2016. According to the trust, you'll remember that trust from our last episode, the position was supposed to go to Sherry Redstone, Sumner's daughter, but she deferred. Okay, she liked Les.
What is this, college admissions? She deferred?
She said, "I don't want to be CEO right now. I really like Les. We have a pretty good relationship, so I'll give it to him." And it makes sense, business-wise, for him to be rewarded. He was the one who was considered responsible for CBS's success. And years ago, when Viacom spun off CBS, when CBS was a stodgy and struggling company, remember, it was called the Geezer Network, and Viacom had hit TV shows on MTV and Comedy Central. And you listen to our last episode, you know what happened. Viacom shriveled up like Sumner's pension. You like that? And CBS was valued 45% bigger than Viacom in 2016 and was the most watched network for the past 12 out of 13 years. I'm sure his employees, on the other hand, were not so thrilled that their boss got a promotion. Here's a quote from Les about himself. "Am I a micromanager? Probably. I'm sure there are days when people say, I wish the hell he'd leave me alone to do this, but I treat them well by and large, and I think they like it here." Like most of the CEOs on this podcast, not a lick of introspection.
I like 3 decimal points, not 2.
Excuse me, I counted the holes in this hole puncher. There's 3. I was looking for a 4-hole punch. Where's my Diet Coke? But the truth is, at this point, Les is making so much money, he probably sees his employees like Jack Donaghy with dollar signs above their heads. Here's an article from the LA Times right after he's named CEO. The article is called "Why Sumner Redstone's Men, Les Moonves and Felipe Dahlman," who you met in the last episode, have made a king's ransom. From the article, "When it comes to executive compensation, few corporate chieftains have soared to the sky-high levels enjoyed by Sumner Redstone and his top lieutenants, Les Moonves and Felipe Dahlman. CBS Corp Chief Executive Moonves and Viacom CEO Dahlman are the second and third highest paid executives, respectively, among publicly traded U.S. companies. Moonves pulled in $56.4 million, and Dahlman was right behind at $54.1 million. Both men earned far more than their peers, who commanded much bigger media companies. Why are the packages so rich? Mostly, it reflects the style of Sumner Redstone, who has long run his $40 billion media empire like a private fiefdom and believes in awarding whopping pay packages to the bosses, himself included. Some shareholders have complained to little effect. The Redstone family owns nearly 80% of the voting stock in the two companies, and nobody can object. Over the last decade, Viacom and CBS allocated salaries, stock awards, and options and bonuses to other benefits valued at $1.6 billion for 4 men. This is some Gilded Age shit, my guys. You ready for corporate gossip number 4?
Yeah.
Actually, before that, can we take a break?
Well, before we get into that, I happen to find on Poshmark a full zip Sun Valley Conference size medium.
Allen and Company,
I'll
does
never
it say?
fit into that.
Allen and Company, it's the exact one as that, except for it's a full zip,
And how much?
$95 plus shipping.
All right, during the break, we'll take a look at it, see if there's any pilling. 100%
Yeah, no
cotton.
pilling.
I know it's definitely a blend.
Okay, so, and we'll let you
These guys
know
are
what
nuts.
happens. It's my favorite part of the podcast where I get to thank all the people who supported us via Buy Me Coffee. If you don't want to commit to the Patreon and you still want to support the pod, you can do so by going to buymeacoffee.com/corporategossippod. And you get a shout out, which I'm going to do right now. If you don't hear your name, don't worry, we'll get to it this season. Rachel, hey from California, Mulan Moo, Paulina Sidwell, Trisha, Carl Schweikert, Tony from Canada, Mary Ostad, Alireza Rezavi, another friend of the pod, Polly, Daniel Good, Amy Peck, Chloe, somebody named Accountants Rock, Charlie L, Mike, Tay, Katie, Jen K, Katrina S, Katie D, Emily M, friend of the pod, Ann Walter, Chad, at Clara Husted. Thank you guys so much for your support. We really couldn't do this without you. This is a labor, but it's a labor of love, and your guys' support really makes it worth it. Every dollar that you guys send to the podcast goes right into the production. We pay for all of the subscriptions to do all of our research and book. There's a lot of people that actually work behind the scenes, and so we get to pay them. And it does put a dent in Mike's Topo Chico addiction. So thank you again from the bottom of our hearts. After much consideration, I ultimately don't want to give my $95 to a hard-up former billionaire who clearly lost a bunch of money in crypto. And I'd like to invest that $95 into our merch line. And instead, I'm just going to let the thrift gods speak to me. And I'm going to find an Allen & Company sweatshirt on my own. Or if you have a lead, or if you have one, if you ever find one of those Allen & Company sweatshirts, I'll pay for it.
Oh, there's McKinsey merch, too, I'm going to get my hands on.
All right, you ready for corporate gossip number 4?
Let's bring it.
Corporate gossip number 4 is, in Bermuda, Sherry Redstone, the boards of Viacom and CBS and Les Moonves jump in a lake, swim out to a floating dock, and then wrestle each other off the platform. Last man standing gets to decide the fate of the company. It'll be cute. And then they'll do, what do they say in Succession? Meal fit for a king. And it's very cute. And
Pig on wait, what is it?
You're boar on the floor.
Boar on the floor.
But at the end of this, Jeremy Strong will shave his head. So despite Les's illusions of grandeur, he's not King Dick of CBS quite yet. He really is just the fattest pig on the pasture that's controlled by cowgirl Sherry Redstone. And she's galloping up behind him, getting real close to swinging her lasso right around his neck. Sherry was calling the shots at both Viacom and CBS because she still has controlling interest in both. Remember, Viacom used to own CBS until 2006 when Sumner split the two companies because CBS was dragging them down. Now, CBS is more valuable than Viacom, and it makes sense that Sherry would want to merge the two together, especially now that Netflix and Amazon were spending billions of dollars on new programming. Legacy media is dead, baby, and the only solution is to get the band back together. It would also make it way easier for Sherry to sell the companies down the line to an even bigger media conglomerate. Think Apple, Amazon, Google. So she tells Les and the board in 2018 that she wants to merge the two companies. But Les was oiling himself up, trying to slip out of Sherry's crosshairs. He knew if these companies were to merge, it would drag down CBS and tarnish his sterling reputation. Andrew Ross Sorkin asked him about this in 2016 when the rumors first started. At the time, Sorkin asked him to name a reason why he would not be in favor of the merger. Because I'm too old and I'm too rich, he joked. How's that? That's a joke, ladies and gentlemen. That's all I'm going to give you. Oh, I can bet you had that stupid smug face on. What a fucking turd. So in 2018, when merger talks were seeming more serious, Les mounted an insane defensive position. Here's how it went down. And we're going to do this in the style of an old Western. I'll be Sherry and Mike will be Les.
Sherry, I don't care how many doubloons your daddy gave you. You're not buying CBS.
It ain't up to you, Les. You see, I got these here papers. This entitles me to 80% of the voting power in this here town, and I can buy you come hell or high water.
Oh, I got paper. Shut your pie hole, lady boss. I got papers too. This here's the CBS Business Charter, page 27, paragraph 3. Why don't you give it a gander?
In the event that majority of the CBS board members turn against Sherry Redstone, a special dividend can be offered, diluting Redstone's voting rights from 80 to 70.
Close your mouth, Sherry. You'll catch flies.
You son of a bitch! The nuclear option!
That's right, the nuclear option. And we're meeting Thursday at Cipriani's Saloon to vote. And it doesn't look pretty for you. Giddy up!
Daddy, I won't let you down. I'm gonna destroy Les Moonves. Horsey, take me to the Delaware Court of chancellery.
That's pretty good. Yeah.
Honest to God, I'm not even kidding. This was like 2% more dramatic than how it all went down. Here's an excerpt from the Wall Street Journal. This is an article titled, Sherry Redstone alleges CBS CEO threatened to quit if board didn't strip Redstones of control. Sherry Redstone shot back at CBS in court on Tuesday, alleging that CBS chief Les Moonves gave the CBS board an ultimatum that he would resign unless directors voted to strip her family of voting control. In a complaint filed Tuesday, Ms. Redstone and her family holding company National Amusements says that CBS's action to strip National Amusements of its voting control by issuing a dilutive dividend to all of its shareholders, that's the thing where we said from 80% to 17%, is invalid. They say that the recent legal attacks against the Redstone family aren't motivated by the board's concern over being forced to merge. Rather, Ms. Redstone says that the motivation is Mr. Moonves' opportunistic seizure of the moment to throw off the yoke of having a controlling shareholder that he has long chafed against, according to the complaint. So basically, he's using this as an opportunity to gain control and finally rid himself of Sumner Redstone, who, by the way, has been lining his pockets pretty well over the past 15 years, and his daughter. So for the next few months, the merger effectively is in limbo as the courts review the case. But all of this drama would be as boring as Crystal Minkoff's storyline on Beverly Hills once you get a load of what happens next.
Crystal has a $100 million coconut water company, according to her.
What Les didn't know at the time was that there was a much bigger threat to his reputation on the horizon. You ready for corporate gossip number 5?
Bring in the sexual assaults.
Corporate gossip number 5 is the skeletons in Les Moonves' closet wake up and the bones are their dollars. The worms. I don't remember how the rest of the song goes.
Pretty close. Yeah. I think you can just make it up and it's right.
The world is a vampire.
So based on that rundown of Les I gave you in the beginning of this episode, you won't be surprised when I tell you that the Me Too movement happened and people were like, oh shit, what about Les? In fact, CBS's publicist, who was pretty close with Les at the time, Gil Schwartz, asked Les if CBS had anything to worry about when the Weinstein allegations dropped. Moonves' response, I had a long life, and I've been an active guy, but I can't imagine any problems. Okay, good enough for me, said Schwartz.
I like. He's just like, this is exactly what he said. He goes, ooh, I've banged a lot of broads, but doubt it.
Literally. Yeah. And there was a similar investigation that we won't get into in the episode, but basically, like, they just asked Les. These independent investigators went to him and was like, hey, buddy, anything unconsensual? And he was like, not that I can recall. And they were like, okay, our job here is done. Thank you very much for your cooperation.
Due diligence. Close the book on it.
What did they expect him to say?
Well,
hey, ask me if Les, if I have any.
Les, do we have anything to worry about sexually assault-wise?
Yeah.
Why? What is he going to say?
Did, it sounds like even if, like, Les was so put up on a pedestal at CBS. He was godlike there. Even if he did start saying, oh, well, there was the one time the investigators would have been like, la, 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 la. Yeah. Like, they wouldn't have wanted to hear it anyway. The board certainly didn't. And oh boy, if you are into corporate governance and you want to know about what not to do if you're a board member, listen to the rest of this episode. So fast forward to the beginning of 2018, Sherry hears rumors about Les and she calls up the board. Most of them were skeptical. They're like, you want a merger? And Les is dead set about that merger. What if she was just spreading rumors about him? Mm-hmm. But there were a few executives who knew more. In fact, it was the same Gil Schwartz who got a message from the Los Angeles Police Department that month. Here's the police.
Read as cop.
Mike is going to play the cop from the LAPD.
Get on the ground.
Somebody walked into the station about a couple hours ago and made allegations against your boss regarding a sexual assault. It's confidential, as you know. But call me, and I can give you some of the details and let you know what the allegation is before it goes to the media or gets out.
This is illegal, by the way. You can't give a tip to the person who's being investigated.
It's like the cop calling TMZ to let them know where the crash is.
It's crazy.
What are you doing?
The officer, Corey Palka, and there's a reason why I'm naming him, was referencing a report filed by Phyllis Golden Gottlieb. This is from the book, and again, I don't know if I mentioned it this episode yet, but this is Unscripted by James B. Stewart and Rachel Abrams. This is the book we also talked about in the Paramount episode. It's available on our bookshop.org storefront. Before I move to the next part of this episode, I'm going to offer up a content warning. We are going to get into the details of sexual assault. Golden Gottlieb told the officer on duty that she had worked with Les Moonves while she was at Lorimar, and he was at the head of movies for television. One day in 1986, Moonves invited her to lunch. They get in his car. He drives her not to a restaurant, as she was expecting, but to a secluded area. There he parked, unzipped his pants, grabbed her head, and forced it onto his erect penis until he ejaculated. Gil Schwartz calls up Les. He's like, do you know anything about this? Les told Schwartz he had had consensual sex a few times with a co-executive, Golden Gottlieb, and they'd be friendly before, during, and after. Nothing to worry about. The allegations were pretty old, plus it was before his time where he was at CBS. And I love how these guys think that you can just get a legal clean slate every time you get a new job. Schwartz had a statement ready, but no one on the board said anything about it. Nobody brought it up. Moonves, on the other hand, hired a celebrity criminal defense lawyer, and 10 days later, they found out they had nothing to worry about. Would you look at that? The LAPD investigated the report, and no witness or corroborative evidence. Case closed. Don't worry about it.
So you know how there's a book about who's the guy who does the bodies? What's that guy's job?
Medical examiner?
Yeah, so the medical examiner for LA County came out with a book, but what's really interesting is that I think they should collate all the cops, specifically the head cops, and see how many stories these guys kept under wraps for these execs, right? I mean, these could be several books. These guys were the most powerful guys in town, arguably more important than politicians.
Yeah.
They kept the town running.
An aside, 6 years later, okay, just a month ago, it was reported that the captain of the LAPD, Corey Palka, worked with CBS to cover up those allegations. From a Vanity Fair article, a subsequent investigation by the LA Times, remember, this is why we support journalism, guys, exposed even more details about Palka, including a revelation that the former LAPD captain sent Moonves a note that said, I will always stand with, by, and pledge my allegiance to you. The captain of the LAPD is pledging his allegiance to the Les.
And maybe you could put a photo up of this guy, because he looks like he was just vying for a spot on LAPD, like a TV show or something, because he looks like he was an actor that was like, well, I'll be a cop.
You're
instead.
Right. He is a very Hollywood
sharp-jawed, well-groomed man.
So Palka, who had developed a relationship with Moonves after working as his security detail for the Grammy Awards, secretly provided Moonves and CBS executives with status updates on the LAPD's investigation, as well as personal details about the alleged accuser, and slipped CBS a copy of the accuser's report, the LA Times reported. That information allowed CBS to begin investigating the victim's personal circumstances and that of her family.
Oh, I heard that Polka got a new job as special advisor to CBS's newest hit, Cover Up for Sexual Assault.
You're kidding.
Obviously.
I don't know. Honestly, the story is going so crazy. There could have been a news thing I didn't know about. Moonves personally tried to influence Palka and the investigation. The commission said, get this, as punishment, Moonves has agreed to pay $11,250 fine for a violation. This man is worth $500 million. Thank God other women were coming out around the same time and visiting police stations in different jurisdictions with uglier and hopefully less shitty police captains. And because a few months after Moonves and Palka buried the reports, Ronan Farrow releases a bombshell in New Yorker.
Yeah, you got to plug Catch and Kill. I read that a few years back, and it was fantastic. Ronan Farrow's really, really talented, and he handles these difficult stories with such care and attentiveness. And he's a Nepo baby using his power for good.
Yeah, put him in the Wyatt Coke Ingraham clan.
Yeah.
Here's the bombshell that Ronan Farrow publishes. Like I said, I mean, the due diligence, CEOs and executives could never do the level of due diligence that these journalists do. I mean, they just, like I said, they just asked Les Moonves once, hey, anything? Don't say anything. If you did do anything, just zip it. And Ronan Farrow's fucking digging dirt for years and corroborating sources and putting his entire name on the line to get this right. So here's the story. Les Moonves and CBS face allegations of sexual misconduct. 6 women accuse the CEO of harassment, intimidation, and dozens more describe abuse at his company. So I'm going to give you a excerpt of the series of in the magazine exposing Les. These are some of the stories. If you don't want to hear them, go to the next piece of corporate.
Skip ahead 3 minutes.
If you don't want to hear them, skip ahead about 3 minutes. Yeah. By the way, these are just a few of the accounts of this man. CBS said that allegedly this all happened before Julie Chen Moonves, and in the years since, he's been a model citizen. Mm-hmm. So Jessica Pallingston, the writer, alleges that Moonves coerced her into performing oral sex on him when she worked as his temporary assistant at Warner Brothers in the spring of 1994. When she refused his moves, he became hostile and called her a "see you next Tuesday," she claims. Deborah Green was a freelance makeup artist who worked for CBS in the early 2000s. After a shoot, Moonves asked her for a massage and then stood up, turned around, grabbed her. She claims he stuck his tongue down my throat. It was like a forceful hold. Dr. Ann Peters, she came out separately, but not in this New Yorker article, but in a separate report. She's a diabetes doctor who saw Les Moonves as a patient. And one day during a doctor's appointment, I did my usual initial interview, and then we stood to move to the examination table. He grabbed me as I stepped forward. He pulled himself against me and tried to force himself on me. He did this twice. When I rebuffed him, he stood beside the examination table and satisfied himself. Les called her the next day to apologize and said that he had done the same thing with many women. He said he had a terrible problem and that he had done the same thing with other people. And that was finally enough to have the board do an actual investigation. Here's what they found, as reported by the New York Times, who saw a report drafted by the outside lawyers hired by the CBS board. There's 3 points here. Number 1, investigators heard that a CBS employee was on call to perform oral sex. According to a draft report, a number of employees were aware of this and believed that the women were protected from discipline or termination as a result of it. Number 2, Moonves received oral sex that appeared transactional. Moonves received oral sex from at least 4 CBS employees under circumstances that sound transactional and improper to the extent that there was no hint of any relationship, romance, or reciprocity. And 3, a board member knew about an alleged assault. That's number 3. Shortly before he joined CBS's board in 2007, the Oscar-winning producer Arnold Kopelson, who we heard about in the last episode, was told about an alleged sexual assault by Mr. Moonves. It was the diabetes doctor who told him directly, they were friends, about what happened to her, and she urged him, don't join the board. She recalls Kopelson responding that the incident had happened a long time ago and was trivial, and said, in effect, we all did that. Mike, Adam, have you ever assaulted your diabetes doctors? On the board, Mr. Kopelson continued to defend Mr. Moonves. He said, I don't care if 30 more women come forward and allege this kind of stuff. Les is our leader, and it wouldn't change my opinion of him.
Fuck you.
Anyway, a secret resignation letter was drafted for Moonves. This is number 4. The report said that Gil Schwartz had also found out about the assault to Dr. Peters, and after discussing the matter with Mr. Moonves, Mr. Schwartz drafted a resignation letter for the chief executive, but Mr. Moonves didn't sign it, and Mr. Schwartz did not tell the board. When Schwartz found out about the allegations, he was reportedly stunned. This is insane. Schwartz says, that doesn't sound like Les. Moonves is a blowjob guy, not a masturbation guy.
I would know because I give him blowjobs.
Like, what the hell?
Yeah, he got the allegations. He went, what?
Like,
Yeah, no, great defense. My lawyer had the same defense, but he went to DeVry.
it's unreal.
My client doesn't masturbate on account of all the assaults. Oh, shoot. I should have said that.
By the way, this is sad. Gil Schwartz died 2 years later at 68 years old of cardiac arrest.
Yeah, he had a lot on his heart.
Seriously. This is all insane. Also, that board member / former producer Arnold Kopelson is wild. His hair was full of secrets. This guy has been in every dark shadow of both of these companies. He was on the plane with Sumner when he assaulted Malia at Aladdin. He knew about the accusations against Les a decade before they came out. And I have another story about this guy that's going to blow your damn mind. He sent a frenzied email to Kathy Griffin, which included a pre-typed out apology that she was to send from her computer to Donald Trump after she got in trouble when she took a picture with an effigy of his decapitated head. Do you remember this?
Yes.
So if you don't remember, in 2017, Griffin posted a picture of herself with a Donald Trump mask that is supposed to look like his severed head. And the blowback was intense. I mean, there was death threats. She was blacklisted. She was dropped from the CNN broadcast, New Year's Eve broadcast with Anderson Cooper. She was effectively persona non grata for a bit there. During that time, she got an email from Arnold Kopelson. Kathy at the time considered him a friend. And here's the email.
Subject, your next move.
Your next move. I'm just going to read it. Kathy, it is obvious that somehow you have to get to Trump himself, who has been known to be compassionate. You have one chance left. If you send the following letter, do not change a word of it. You will exclusively, all caps, release the letter to Fox Broadcasting. And here is the letter that he wants Kathy to send. Dear Mr. President, please, I beg of you, do not stop reading. I have done a terrible thing. What I, lowercase I, there's so many typos in this email, which he wants her to copy and paste and not change a word. What I did was beyond being oblivious to humanity. I am now being lectured by friends who have supported you. Friends who I didn't want to listen to in the past about you. Now, with my world crumbling around me, I am listening for the first time about the great things you have done and are doing. How stupid I was to follow the lies from the, quote, left. How warped and misguided I was. My stupidity is overwhelming. I am begging you to open your heart and forgive me. I have done a terrible thing and I have lost my career and my life. Thank you, sir, for hearing M-E-H, plea. Respectfully, Kathy Griffin.
Thanks for hearing my plea.
And Arnold Kopelson writes a postscript. He says in all caps, Kathy, with 2 Y's. I have spent the last hour and a half composing this letter. Please do not call me to discuss it. Just do it, in all caps. If you don't do exactly what I have written, your career is over. She obviously did not send the letter. In interviews afterwards, she said that Kopelson's email was indicative of men who control the checkbooks, who, despite the entertainment industry's liberal reputation, tend to be more conservative and who don't like people who rock the boat. So anyways, put a pin in Griffin. She'll come back to the story. But back to the allegations against Les. These are criminal, right? Beyond the pale. Surely the board must be moving swiftly to get him out of the company. Well, no. See, they were busy. Remember, they're in court while this is happening, trying to prevent a merger. Like, babes, don't worry about your little business transaction. Your freaking house is on fire and you have a sexual harasser on the loose. It reminds me of, there's a pedophile in the building. There's a sexual harasser in the building. Children, get out. The board wasn't super eager to talk about this as it was. They don't like to have hard conversations. And Les wasn't going to talk about it. A week after the New Yorker article, he's on an earnings call and he doesn't even mention it. He doesn't even mention it on an earnings call. Do you not think that has anything to do with your business?
No, it's my personal life. Leave me alone.
Give me a break. Listen to this messiness. This is reported by the Wall Street Journal. 2 weeks after that earning call, Mr. Moonves was accidentally copied on an email to the entire CBS board detailing damaging findings in the law firm's investigations and discussing how to proceed should he need to be put on leave, according to people that were familiar with
Let's
the
hear
matter.
it. Bring it. Give it to me. I want to hear it all. Let me bathe in it.
This is so messy. I am screaming. According to reports, after that, Les hit the wall and spent his time sequestered in his Studio City office. The board did meet the day after the article was published without Les. Here's what happened according to the book Unscripted. One board member immediately rose to Moonves' defense. We're going to stay in this meeting until midnight if we need to, until we get to an agreement that we stand 100% behind our CEO and there will be no change in his status.
Yeah. Bring in the takeout menus.
We're
having no boo.
No boo tonight. We'll be here until the janitors kick us out. Well, Luckily for them, the directors did not have to stay until midnight to resolve their differences. They seemed only too happy to embrace somebody's suggestion that they wait until they heard from the outside lawyers, which they hired for the investigation. Anything to delay removing Moonves. The meeting adjourned in less than an hour. Wait, they go, we'll stay here all night until we get a decision. Why don't we not make a decision? All right, that's good enough for me. You guys are making $200,000 a year for fucking 10 hours of work, and you can barely do that.
Yeah, but this is the board doing what the board does. These guys don't want to leave a guy out in the cold, especially a brother in arms, you know? Because guess what? Some of these guys may have done or been complicit in some of the same activities.
Yes, and remember, there's reciprocal relationships for these boards. Les was probably sitting on boards where these guys were executives. I mean, it really is. Despite independence, there is a tight tapestry of favors among board members. So anyway, CBS announces to the public they're not making any moves until the investigation has concluded.
Yeah, because I'm sitting here the investigation's really going to turn a corner. It's going to get much better from here. Guys, we can still right the ship, right? I mean, yeah, he's done all that, but, he could, provide water to an entire continent or something.
What the hell? There's 15 women who have come out.
Get a fucking grip.
Here's one professor at the Yale School of Management who says it's short-sighted and cowardly of the board. They think they're showing courage on behalf of the CEO, but they're just circling wagons. I can't imagine that they think they're being courageous at this moment. They must know in their heart of heart that they're little bitches.
Yeah, they're just playing the world's biggest game of kick the can down the fucking road.
A few days after that, the board found out that Les Moonves had other accusers that were keeping quiet only because, get this, Les had worked with their managers to get them roles in CBS shows. I mean, that's got to be enough, right? To fire this guy? He's using company resources now to silence potential accusers. In the board's defense, okay, I really had to dig deep for this. I could give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they're waiting until the investigation is done so they can fire him with cause. Now, there's a clause in his contract that if he is fired without cause, which is a different definition for CEOs than it is for us. They have completely different contracts. If you fire a CEO for being bad at their job, it's technically without cause.
Oh.
With cause is effectively criminal activity only. That's the only way he wouldn't get a severance package. If he's fired with cause, they can save $120 million that they don't have to pay him in severance. But remember, they already spent $1.6 billion on these guys.
Right.
So, but when I look at the evidence, this doesn't seem to be the case. This is the meeting where Copelson says, I don't care if 100 more women come forward, Les is our guy. And with that, the board took no further action while the investigation carried on. And during the investigation, Moonves is just acting like such a little whiny baby. On the allegations from Dr. Peters, the diabetes doctor, he said, I did make an attempt or pass at her. She rejected it, and I don't remember all the circumstances that followed. I know it was very uncomfortable and awkward, and I got out soon after. It happened. I'm not proud of it. Obviously, I misread signs, and I was inappropriate. I got out as soon as I could. That was my recollection. He goes on to say, the person described in the article isn't me. I realize I'm in potential peril here, and I just wanted to let you know that. I'm not perfect, but I'm pretty sure I've told you everything. And you've certainly grilled me on everything. Playing the victim. I find it a little bit coincidental, by the way, that the latest article comes out the day before I do my settlement with CBS. I find that very curious. The whole thing has been quite upsetting, and I'm trying to be as open with you as I can. This is giving big time Jax Taylor. I'm a work in progress. I'm surprised he didn't go off and say, you're no angel, sweetheart.
I'm working with my Reiki person right now.
Yeah. I've got Kelsey Patel from Goop doing Reiki on me, and she's gonna fix me, okay? Ready for corporate gossip number 6?
Yes.
Corporate gossip number 6 is Les is like, you're gonna rip this golden parachute on my kung fu grip, Sherry. Well, eventually they do kick Moonves out 6 weeks after the expose, September 2018. At the same time, Sherry agrees with the board not to merge CBS and Viacom for another 2 years. And now the board has to figure out how they can get out of paying Les his $120 million golden parachute. Remember, in America, just because you commit crimes against women in the workplace doesn't mean you're not entitled to some fuck you money. Look at Roger Ailes, who was given $40 million to step down from Fox after his sexual harassment scandal. And if you watch the movie Bombshell, you know how bad it got there. You know what's crazier? At that year's annual shareholder meeting, this is 4 months after this whole thing blew up and Les stepped down, nobody mentioned it. There wasn't a single question about it. None of the executives brought it up. Can you imagine if we let a housewife get away with this on a reunion? You have to talk about it. Okay, obviously from like a dramatic standpoint, but like let's talk about succession planning. Let's talk about the company culture. Let's talk about whether people are able to raise concerns, whistleblowing, whatever. Like there are actual business implications to this. Eventually, the board did end up getting Moonves fired for cause. He didn't receive additional compensation. They did have to pay for him to have an office for a year and for the legal fees he incurred to fight this decision.
Yeah, well, what does he need an office for? Playing solitaire on his computer? What's he doing?
I'll tell you.
I'm getting my affairs in order.
Also, is he going to the office?
Yeah.
Like, imagine this happening. He shows up the next day with a coffee, like, morning, everybody.
Morning.
I'll be in my office.
So I'll tell you what he's doing in a second, but it's a different office in Studio City that's not the CBS office. So he still went on to fight and try to get every last penny. So yeah, next year, Moonves sets up shop in WeHo. He founds a company called Moonrise Unlimited, which according to documents provides, quote, entertainment services, undescribed, but there's no website. There's no other information. As far as I can tell, he's kind of just like faded into obscurity. No one from Hollywood seems to be reaching out to him or Julie, except for Kathy Griffin, who after revelations came out about Les, she texted Julie. I don't know what they were talking about before, but she had tweeted this excerpt from a conversation she had with Julie Chen. She goes, you know what, Julie? I've changed my mind. Fuck you and your misogynistic husband. You two deserve each other. Oh, and tell him Kathy fucking Griffin said hello. Bye, bitch.
That was pretty good.
What sucks about being hated for Les Moonves is that a lot of the people who hate him are also extremely funny, which makes their admonitions even better. There's a whole side story here about the Howard Stern feud with Les Moonves. He actually went on an I Hate Les Moonves tour wearing I Hate Les Moonves' t-shirts, motivated by Les suing him for breach of contract, which Howard didn't think was fair. He also made a Les Moonves sock puppet. And that's a story for another podcast, but you should Google that. Julie Chen Moonves, after Les was fired, was also fired from the talk after this. She was pretty quiet until recently, like this year, when she started a book tour for her Christian self-help book. Now she said she's feeling stabbed in the back by the network. Feel stabbed in the back by your husband. Overall, she's pretty steadfastly supportive of her husband.
Yes, this is step 2. Find God and be absolved of all your husband's sex abuse.
Yeah, seriously. In 2022, Les Moonves and Paramount were ordered to pay about $10 million in fines after a state investigation found that the network and its senior leadership had concealed accusations of sexual misconduct against Mr. Moonves, and in the case of one executive, engaged in insider trading related to the allegations. Les paid $2.5 million of that, and Paramount picked up the rest. The executive who was named was Gil Schwartz.
Right.
Who sold millions of dollars of stock when he knew about the investigations, but before they were made public. And remember, this is the guy who died of cardiac arrest.
Right.
So I'm telling you guys, capitalism kills. All right, you ready for the last piece of corporate gossip?
The last piece. Let's get into it.
Corporate gossip number 7 is, wait, I merged these two companies, but why does my dad still not love me? So let's follow up with Sherry Redstone here at the end of the story and tie some loose ends together. So in December 2019, Sherry did end up merging CBS and Viacom, and that created Paramount Global. So when you go on Paramount, the app on your television, and you see CBS and Viacom and all those assets, this is as a result of that merger. But since then, the share price has really taken a beating. Shareholders even sued Sherry and the company, saying that the combined company is actually worth less than the companies separately. By the way, when people talk about synergy of merged companies, what they're saying is the two companies together are worth more than the sum of their parts combined. So this is like reverse synergy. That's what they're talking about.
Right, and but there's something to be said about cutting a lot of the fat, because now you have two media companies. Right. You don't need two finance.
You don't need two finance. You don't need two HR. Like that's how it should be. Yeah. But now shareholders are suing, saying this is worth less combined than it was apart. And they want to be compensated. In 2023, the lawsuit was settled and the shareholders received $122 million, which feels like a pretty low number considering the fact that after the merger, one executive was offered, could have gotten a $120 million buyout package. But anyway, here's Sherry on the Forbes. She's on the cover.
Oh, she's got her father's cheekbones.
Yeah, right? it says the winner, Sherry Redstone. So in the battle between, remember if we go back to that Succession thing when she's on the swim platform with Les and the board of directors, she ultimately is victorious. Eventually, Sherry did become chair of both Viacom and CBS through Paramount Global, the position that was originally her birthright. Remember, it was in the trust. She put her pal Bob Bakish in control of the company as CEO, but the question about Sherry is, did she get what she actually wanted, which was ultimately the love and respect of her father? Here's a quote from Unscripted. Sherry could never be certain she'd gained her father's approval, given his impaired faculties. If you listen to the last episode, you'll know what we're talking about. Just after Sumner died, she reached out to Ted Jankowski, her father's former teaching assistant, friend, and longtime business colleague, for reassurance. Had she done the right thing, she asked? Would her father approve? Had he really loved her? Jankowski said her father would have loved and respected her. He would have been proud of her.
Oof. Yeah, nothing like going to a friend of your father for validation from your father.
Seriously. Well, who's dead, but I mean, yikes. You merge these two companies, their value is worthless, basically, and you don't even have the love of your father because he's died before he's gotten to see what you've done. I mean,
I don't know. I'll take the money. I don't really need that.
Well, so let's talk about Paramount today. There have been rumors that Sherry wants to sell the controlling interest of National Amusements to David Ellison. You recognize that name?
Yeah, great.
Larry Ellison's son, he's the CEO and founder of Oracle. There have also been talks that Paramount Plus and Peacock may merge.
Love that.
And Allen Media Group, unrelated to the Allen and Company, has also bid $14 billion for the company. So it feels like a shakeup is in the cards for 2024. But how's Paramount doing today?
I'll tell you how I'm doing. Not well, bitch.
That's right.
Not well, bitch. Right after the Super Bowl, which was played on CBS this year to record ratings and hit a number of Paramount Plus commercials, CEO Bob Bakish announced that Paramount will lay off 3% of the company amid a sagging stock price. It's one thing to see banks or oil companies suffer at the hands of incompetent executives, but this one kind of reminded me of Boeing, where you see these incredibly smart, creative employees just absolutely bushwhacked by these turd executives, and it's really sad. Like, throughout this story, if the execs just listened to their employees, again, similar to Boeing, Paramount could have been a much stronger company. What about you?
Yeah. Well, boards suck, and they'll always suck until we, the shareholders, demand answers and accountability. Like, yes, Wall Street bears a lot of weight, but if there's one thing we can learn from the meme stocks, it's that we make a difference too. So here it is, folks. Vote your proxies. Look at the board and research the member elections and vote your proxies.
Every board member of Paramount, every board member of CBS, had you been a shareholder of either of those companies at the time, you could have voted. Now, we understand that in this situation, given dual class shareholders, your vote wouldn't have mattered too much, but that could change. And it doesn't matter. You have to vote your proxy. You have to be an engaged shareholder, because this is how these guys get away with it. There are lots of, we've talked about it before, the Index Act in Congress that should make voting on shares a lot easier and a lot more transparent. And I hope that does pass. We could get into it. There's a lot of interesting nuance against that around that act. But yes, vote your shares, vote your proxies. By the time this episode comes out, it will be proxy season. And if you want to know more about that, I actually have a series on my TikTok all about voting your proxies. Maybe we can do a little mini-sode about how to do it. All right. With that, any other takeaways, Mike?
I think it should be noted that Les didn't come from royalty money-wise. Like, he was an army vet and a nurse. Like, he did come from the bottom.
He was not
His mother was a nurse.
His parents didn't like float him like his kid was floated, you know, like, so he did make himself a billionaire off of of just by working his way up. Now, however he did it, good, bad, or indifferent, he didn't get it handed to him, which is commendable to a point, but then you become a piece of trash.
Yeah.
According to other people, not me. I still think he's great. Executives of CBS are all geniuses. Anyway.
Yeah, Mike, you want to give, what's his company called? Moonrise
Unlimited.
You
want to do a quick reading?
Yeah, you want to do a quick table read?
Well, here's the good news, is that all these companies are going to merge, and then we're just going to get cable again. Like, it's all just going to get bought up by Spectrum at some point, and then we're all going to get the same thing. That's what I think.
Oh, we have a plug.
We do have a plug. Adam and I, Lincoln Center had us actually nearby the David Koch Theater, ironically, to go see a play called Corruption. It is about the Rupert Murdoch phone hacking scandal. So if you liked our episode on the Murdochs called Schmuck-Session, that was a mouthful. This play is really fun. We really enjoyed it. We got two free seats.
2 free doubles and 2 free doubles.
And 2 free double drinks, which was really nice. And so, like we always say, our opinion is not predicated on getting free stuff, but we always appreciate it when we do.
Yeah, we'll take
and it's cool, and we like to take in the arts.
Yeah, I need the arts.
Adam wanted to be more cultured, so that worked out well for him. I like the play. I think you do need to have some background knowledge. I think it would be hard to take in that play if you didn't have any idea. So I would suggest just doing a little bit of research on the phone hacking scandal, and then you'll really
15 minutes of Wikipedia.
15 minutes of Wikipedia, and you'll really appreciate it.
And go into it, and you'll like it.
But it inspires me in terms of like the doggedness of, we love a journalist underdog story, and that's one of my favorites, and this was one of them. So it was really fun.
It was good.
Thanks for the reminder. If you want to send us tickets to a play, you can email us at becca@nighttoast.com, or you can find us on socials at Corporate Gossip Pod. If you want to support the podcast and put our fund to buy us tickets to Sun Valley, Idaho, so we can dress up as corporate caterers and get this real scoop that you really want. You can do so by buying us a coffee at the link in our show notes.
Yeah, the fake mustaches are not cheap.
Well, I want mine to be aesthetically as real as possible. If you want to read the book that has a lot of the details we covered and even more, you can do so. This is called, again, Unscripted: The Epic Battle for Media Empire and the Redstone Family Legacy by James Stewart and Rachel Abrams. You can find that on our bookshop.org storefront. I think that's it.
That's all she wrote.
Really good at the end credits.
And if you're listening to us, check us out on YouTube. And if you're on YouTube, make sure you listen to us and subscribe to us on all audio platforms.
That's right.
Rate and review.
And rate and review. I was going to say that. Rate and review.
It's free. It's free to click subscribe, free to click that bell button, and it just helps the show grow.
Yep. That's what I was going to say. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next week. Thanks, producer Mike. Thanks, Adam.